If there was any shred of doubt left, why there would be at this point, I don't fucking know. But if there were any left, it has just been nuked. Hello, this is Mara Jade, and I'm back with another video, and here it is, folks. One of the few honest takes coming from anyone associated with Rings of Power. In this case, one of the directors for the episodes, J.A. Bayona, who is defending the series and assuring the series must be, quote, unfaithful to Tolkien's work. Which goes against the very definition of adaptation, doesn't it? That goes against the very definition. When you're adapting a work, granted, some liberties have to be taken because not all mediums translate from one to another, and I've always brought up anime, because that's one big example, great example of that case, where not everything that happens in the manga or the animation itself would translate to, let's say, live action. I think we saw that, case in point, with Ed. For the brief scene, we see that character during the live action Cowboy Bebop. It just doesn't work. One Piece. Some of those characters just wouldn't work necessarily in live action. So like I said, I understand liberties, but at the same time, that does not mean they are to be unfaithful to any one work. And here's the director, Bayona, saying and assuring the series will remain so. But at any rate, let's just go into this article so we can get an idea of what exactly he is saying. So here it is. Rings of Power Prime Video's ambitious series that brings Tolkien's universe. No, it doesn't. This is not Tolkien's universe. This is not Tolkien's universe at fucking all. This is not Middle-earth. These are not the canonical characters. And those non-canonical characters, key emphasis there on non-canonical, aren't Tolkien's work. So right off the bat, stop fucking shilling through your teeth. To the small screen is sparking all kinds of reactions among fans of the original work, whether praising the technical workmanship of its production or criticizing the script, the pacing, or the adaptation of the original lore. Yes. If we're not criticizing the actual adaptation of the lore, because let's face it, it is not Tolkien's work, the script makes absolutely no sense most times, it's boring, lazy, pacing is completely fucking off at times. Introducing characters that are non-canonical because they do not have the rights to the actual work, so they're creating their own story, but using Tolkien as a vehicle to do so, pretty much. In any case, it is clear the vision of its showrunners, it should be Tolkien's vision, right? But they're saying the vision of its showrunners, that's honest, right fucking there. That is the vision we're seeing on the screen. That is the vision we're seeing while watching these episodes. It's not Tolkien's vision, it is the vision of the showrunners. J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay leaves no one indifferent. No. There's complete indifference to this series. Complete indifference. You had a drop of viewership from the first episode to the second episode, and Amazon has yet to even remotely reveal any numbers post the premiere weekend. I've not seen them. I've looked. I've tried searching. They are conveniently silent in that regard. They loved patting themselves on the back as far as that $25 million figure viewership for the premiere weekend. But if you factor in how many subscribers Amazon Prime has at 200 million, that's about 12.5% of the total subscribers for Amazon Prime. And yet, HBO Max, with far less subscribers and global reach than Amazon Prime, beat Rings of Power in viewership the first weekend, for its premiere weekend. So take that into fucking account, pretty much. Now, in order to justify how the series deals more or less freely with a less detailed period in the history of Middle-earth, I love that, because it says rights aside. Rights, they have no rights. So it shouldn't be dealing more or less freely with the less detailed period, because the period itself is very detailed. It is very detailed. You have the Silmarillion, you have the Unfinished Tales, the history of Middle-earth. Very detailed. They could have easily gotten 5 seasons or more out of just the history alone for the Second Age. But they don't have the rights. So the story we're seeing is from what the showrunners wanted to tell. This is their story, not Tolkien's story. It's their story because they don't have the rights, and they chose to go ahead anyway and still claim to be fans of Tolkien's work. J.A. Bayona, director of the first 2 episodes of Rings of Power, one of the 2 most fucking boring episodes in the series. Wow, the audacity of this dude. Has explained to Cinemania that it is necessary to contribute something to avoid falling into nostalgia. Now, to play devil's advocate just a little bit, not to defend what Bayona is saying, necessarily, alright, but you do not want to bank on nostalgia. Nostalgia in itself is not a bad thing because most properties will have that element to it. Will have an element to it. Especially if you're adapting from one medium to another, from book to film, play script to film, film to play, whatever. Whenever you're adapting a work, there is that little bit of nostalgia, especially if you are adapting a beloved piece of property. Alright? But you can't bank on nostalgia. That's the difference. You can't bank on nostalgia. You can't bank on the member berries. Alright? They failed miserably with the last episode, in my opinion, for Rings of Power, because that was full chalk on of member berries. So I get that. You want to contribute something, but you want to contribute visually, through the script and the performances and so forth, to the world, the work you're adapting. That's what you want to contribute. Not your own political agenda, your socio-political philosophies or anything like that. Political philosophies or anything remotely close to that. Nothing. It's not supposed to reflect you or the real world. It's supposed to reflect the world you are bringing from one element to another. Alright? But in this man's case, in this gentleman's case, Bayona, he's saying that you have to be unfaithful to said work. You have to be unfaithful to said work. This is how the filmmaker put it, assuring that to adapt a story to a different medium, you have to contribute to be unfaithful to the original work. Tolkien spoke of The Lord of the Rings as a story that grew as it was told. What do you mean, grew as it was told? He wrote it. As he was telling it, it grew. The story grew. Alright? But he wasn't telling it, he was writing it. Necessarily, he was like, more specifically. But it was a world, his world, that he was creating. The stories have independence. Tolkien also said that he planted seeds so other authors could enrich them. No. Okay, first off, when I said no, he planted seeds so other authors could enrich their own stories. Not to change his stories or anything like that, because Tolkien did not like any adaptations of his work, alright? He was very, 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 very vocal about that. He was not a fan, and it's not exactly anything against anyone who necessarily was adapting the work. He just wasn't a fan of that whole concept, period. So for you to claim that he also said that he planted seeds so authors could enrich them, no, he was planting seeds so authors could take what he inspired in them and create their own works, not to change his stories, not to be unfaithful to his works necessarily, just so that the fantasy genre, the mythologies and so forth, could reach a larger audience. That's it. That's it. It had nothing to do at all with, hey, I'm planting these seeds so other authors could maybe take those seeds that I planted, those mystery boxes that has been also chock full in the Rings of Power series, and you just have at it. Carte blanche. Go ahead. Go wild. No, he didn't do that. He didn't do that. In a way, he laid the groundwork just as Michael Crichton did with Jurassic Park. No, it's not just laying groundwork. It's not just laying groundwork, like I said, like a foundation, and just leaving it up to other authors to build on that foundation. No! He created the foundation. He created the world that was built on that foundation. So this man here, this man is most likely taking other quotes out of context and putting his own spin on them to defend this series. I'm lucky to have brought my vision, alright, to the world of Jurassic World, alright? Okay, again, these are people, yeah. It shouldn't be your vision. It should be the vision of the work that's already been established before it. Alright? We made it probably the weirdest movie in the saga, turning it into a Haunted Mansion movie. I will always be grateful to Spielberg for giving us the permission to be able to do that, says Bayona about his time in the Jurassic Saga in relation to creative freedom. Probably of the three, probably people would say Jurassic World, the first one, is of the new ones, the best of the trilogy. But when you compare it to the other ones, that's not saying a lot. That's not saying a lot. You ask most people to name which in the franchise, which in the Jurassic Park, the Jurassic World franchise they love, inevitably it's either the first or the second movie. Inevitably. And I'm talking about Jurassic Park films. Jurassic Park 1, Jurassic Park 2. Inevitably. In this sense, Bayona assures that to adapt, it is not necessary to strictly stick to the source being adapted, but it is necessary to enrich the concept and contribute something. No. Okay, like I said. Okay, first off, again, to play devil's advocate, you do not strictly stick to the source being adapted because you risk plagiarism, and two, you can't exactly translate everything from one medium to another. Anime, big example. But also, if they were to try to adapt verbatim, let's say the Fellowship of the Ring, a theatrical release of 3 hours would have most likely translated to a theatrical release of 5 to 6 hours. Alright? I'm not a purist by any means. I understand reasons behind cutting certain characters, altering little bits here and there because, some things just don't work in another medium. But that's not to say that you are enriching the concept and contributing something from your own point of view, from your own moral compass. No. What you contribute, because you're a fucking director, is you yell action, you get the best performance out of the actors and actresses in the scene, you make sure that it is running on time, if any changes need to be made to the script, you make sure those changes get done by the scriptwriters and editors and so forth, you make sure of all that. You do not contribute anything but making sure the movie looks good. That's fucking it for you as a director. For you as a director, you make sure the movie looks and good. It sounds good and everything. That's it. Unless you're making a documentary film or of that nature, you contribute personally jack shit. Here, there was a lot of freedom to fill the gaps in Tolkien's work. Because you don't have the fucking rights to his works. That's why you had the freedom to fill in the gaps. Because you're only working off the appendices. The timeline. That's fucking it. And even the timeline in the series is all over the place. Because you have events happening several hundred years before the creation of the Rings of Power. Then you have events happening nearly 2,000 years after the creation of Rings of Power. Happening before the creation of Rings of Power in the series. It's all over the place. You're not filling in anything. You're not. You're not just filling in the gaps like an Ad-Libs puzzle, or Mad Libs puzzle, I should say. You're not. You're writing your own story, and you're using Tolkien to push your fan fiction onto the world. When adapting a story, you have to be unfaithful. You have to bring something to it. If you don't, you stay in recovery and nostalgia. You have to bring up the level of excitement. This adaptation of Tolkien's world is original. There's the second point of honesty. This adaptation of Tolkien's world is original because it's not an adaptation of Tolkien's world. This is not the story Tolkien wrote because you don't have the rights to it. We are filling in the gaps, taking the work very seriously, and doing our best, concludes the filmmaker. Are you? Rings of Power faces these last 2 weeks the outcome of a first season that has laid the foundation of what Tolkien fans know from the novels. No, we know nothing. Well, we know the novels, but what this series has laid out, we know nothing from that because, again, the timeline is all over the place. The canonical characters are being bastardized. Galadriel, who was never commander of the Northern Armies, is given that title in the series. That's taken away from Elrond, who was a commander of the Northern Armies in the actual lore. He served under Gil-galad, who was the general during the last alliance. He served alongside Elendil and Isildur, pretty much. We know about Isildur and Elendil from the actual works itself, the second history, so we know the history of that family, and so forth. And also, okay, non-canonical characters. They're adding non-canonical characters. The Hood Elf, the Black Dwarf Princess, alright? Both, tokenized characters. The Human Woman Healer, pretty much, and then including Harfoots, which are hobbits, and hobbits were never mentioned in the histories of the Second Age. Never. So there's no story. So that right there, while Harfoots themselves are canonical, the characters that they created for the series are not. So nothing in this series at all would Tolkien fans know from the novels, except the member berries that you like to throw out, and you claim to not be banking on nostalgia, you fucking dickhead. Such as the origin of many of the characters or iconic settings of, Lord of the Rings. This is not Lord of the Rings. This is not the actual origin of many of the characters, and the iconic settings are pretty much member berries at this point. But with the freedom that its creators allow themselves when it comes to adapting the material, also taking into account the lack of rights to certain key elements of the original work. So basically he's like dancing around the fact that, yeah, I have to write positively about this series, but I also have to point out the fact that they don't have the rights to the work, but I'm still going to remain positive. I'm still going to kind of shill for this series, but at any rate, there is full-on honesty coming from director J.A. Bayona about this series, defending it and claiming that the series must be unfaithful to Tolkien's work. Must be unfaithful. The reason he gives is bullshit, but there it is. There it is. Finally, some honesty coming from anyone associated with this series. But what do you make of this, what the director has said, down in the comments below? Do you agree with him? Do you disagree with him? Again, are you watching the series? Are you not watching the series? If you are, what do you think of it? Like, dislike, in the middle. Again, let me know all that fun stuff. I will be live later tonight on Twitch, about 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, give or take. I'm going to jump onto some Destiny 2, go through the Battle Pass, get some, try to grind that out a little bit, just because I'm not going to be able to stream Thursday or Friday evenings this week because of my schedule having to get up early the day after, early morning Friday and early morning Saturday, so I'm not going to be able to stream in the evenings on Twitch, so come hang out tonight. Around the time, like I said, 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, playing some Destiny 2. My Twitch is Jade_Fire. Hope to see you all there. So, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. This is Mara Jade. Catch you on the dark side. And the Amazon Studios paddle will be coming for his ass in the near future.